right there where the Missouri is, that was the USS Maryland, my ship. My battle station was in the conning tower above turret 2. And the Oklahoma was right next to us on the outboard side of the key. Behind that was the Tennessee. Behind that was the Arizona. On the outboard of the Arizona was the USS West Virginia. Then after the Arizona, the USS Nevada. Beside the Arizona, outboard in the harbor, was the USS Vestal, a repair ship. They were doing some repair work on the Arizona at that time. The California was around the key in front, over on the other side of Fort Allen. Pennsylvania was in dry dock across the harbor. And the USS Neosho, which was an oiler, had just unloaded the night before 1 million gallons of high-test aviation gas because they had prop jobs over there on the island. The morning of the 7th of 1941, I was in my office, which was the gunnery office. I looked out the porthole, I heard the first bomb go off and hit the island. I saw the PBY splintered, and I saw a lot of men blowing in the air, arms, legs, and everything, because I was only 50 yards from the pad where they had the circle. I then dogged down the hatch, which was an iron cover to cover the inside of the ship to keep it watertight, headed for my battle station, which was in the conning tower above turret 2. And the conning tower at that time was the combat information center of a ship. They had the captain, the executive officer, the gunnery officer, and the fire control operator. I was the fire control operator. The gunnery officer, as the 3 torpedoes hit the Oklahoma and she started to go, as I was running toward the conning tower to get to my battle station, the Oklahoma took a 14-degree list. She had 3 hits direct right on below the armor belt of the battleship. And as she started to roll over and I got into the conning tower, the gunnery officer said, "Open fire with a secondary system." We had World War I equipment. We had 50 caliber war-cooled 4 50 caliber units. We had 4 1.1s, which were worthless because every 5 or 6 rounds they would just let up, and they have to repair them. We had 4 5-inch 25s, which were anti-aircraft, but the Japanese could come in at about 10,000 feet and then drop to 5, drop their bombs, and go up again, and we couldn't set more than 4 seconds on the fuse for the anti-aircraft shells on that kind of battery, so we were behind. In essence, the Japanese had a better fleet, more modern, faster ships, better weaponry. We fought with what we had, and we had hoped that the war would catch up with us, which they did later on in the Pacific. The story at that time was that for 2 hours, you have a hard time remembering the scenario, because from over here came the horizontal bombers and hit every one of the 7 battleships that were in there, except the Nevada had taken out and gone into the midstream, got torpedoed, and she went over and beached herself to keep from plugging up the channel. The vessel came back in here and went into the South Lock. The Neosho headed for open sea. If they would have hit that one with the fumes, the whole ship would have taken out the harbor. The tank farm of all the high-test aviation gas and everything was right up here in the back. Actually, we only lost about 6 men, 1 officer and 5 enlisted. We were the lucky ones. We had 2 direct bomb hits by 1,700-pound wooden fin-shaped, armor-piercing 16-inch shells. They weren't an actual bomb, an aerial bomb. They were modified, but they penetrated the armor deck on the top of the vessel, and they missed the magazine, which was just below turret 2. 50 years later, when I'm doing the memoirs for my kids in my books, over there where the Maryland was at the Missouri, a torpedo had come in, and you can see in one of the photographs the plane that came up like this, a rooster tail of one that was dropped before it. This torpedo went right underneath the bow of my ship, and it anchored in the mud. 50 years later, they took it out and it exploded. It was fully armed and alive. That's my story.
How old were you when you enlisted?
18.
18 years old. Wow. During the attack, did you fire upon the Japanese planes?
Yeah, as soon as the Oklahoma's turtled, what we call turtled or capsized, as you can see some of the photographs, the part of the bottom of the ship, I'll put it in your language so you understand it, the bottom of the ship was up there and we could fire. Our guns would actually catch the planes as they were coming across the sound. Before they dropped their torpedoes, we got a couple of more. I think our total splash out of that was about 3 or 4 on that day. The irony of the whole thing, what people don't realize, that evening about 5:30, the Enterprise, the Saratoga, and the other ship we had, Lexington, they were over in Wake and the islands over there dropping off Marine Air Corps and their planes to booster up the islands, Wake Island and Midway. They were coming back and the Japanese missed them. They had 6 carriers against our 3 in this operation. So we saved our carriers, but 5 of the planes of the Lexington came in right at the end of that sound, and we were ready for them. We were ready. Fly couldn't have gotten through the anti-aircraft that we threw up there. We got all 5. 1 survived because it was severely injured, and it landed, I think, either on Ford Allen or one of the Wheeler Field out here. But it was pretty well shot up, but at least he was saved. But that was the first case of friendly fire. That's in the log of the Maryland, my ship. And I have a copy of that people can substantiate the story if they ever want to look at the log. Every ship in this harbor had a ship's log, and everything that happened on the watch, on every 4-hour watch that ship had at that time, everything was written down that happened by the minute. And that was the officer of the decks and the navigator's responsibility to keep the ship's history. So you can write to Washington and you can get the ship's history by knowing the hull number and writing for the battleship's write-ups.